morning and welcome to Masa Education Fair 2022. I'm Jennifer and with me is Matthew.
Good morning everyone. Good morning Jen.
Hi, good morning Matthew. We are here to speak about personal branding and how soon anyone should think about looking into this matter. But before we go into that, I'm going to ask Matthew, what exactly do employers look for in a fresh grad?
That's a really good question, Jen. The answer is very different from when I was a fresh grad looking for work.
How long was that?
That was a long time ago. But the point is, these days, hiring managers aren't hiring on the basis of grades. Well, they aren't hiring on the basis of grades alone. Okay, what they're looking for is the 21st century skill set. Okay, they're looking for communication skills. They're looking for critical thinking, creativity. They're looking more than anything else, and they'll tell you this right up front, they're looking for people with the right fit, with the right attitude. Okay? Yes, they want certain skill sets. Alright? If they're looking to hire IT grads, then they want an IT grad skill set. But at the same time, plenty of people that aren't IT grads get jobs in IT because their attitude is one of, I can learn anything and I will learn it quickly. And that's really what hiring managers are looking for. They're looking for really good attitudes.
So how does one put out their attitude before even being hired or before even being called for an interview? I mean, what goes out first would normally be your CV.
That's right, it'll be your CV.
So how do we impress the person who reads our CV? Right?
Well, okay, if you think about it like this, if you're a fresh grad and you're looking for a job, you can write individually to the HR departments of various companies. Okay, you can go onto a job portal site. There are plenty around. Many of them are very famous. myfuturejob.com, .my, JobStreet, places like that. You can submit your CV. A lot of people still get jobs based on personal contacts. Their friends know someone. Their friends have already got a job. And if you think about it, yes, okay, there are two things that come across here. One, you really need a good CV. And two, if you're going to go through your personal network, then your personal network better be up to scratch.
Yeah, networking seems to be a very important point these days. The people you know, the people you know and the people they know plays a big role.
That's right, and you can never start too early for the networking.
Okay, so where does personal branding come into all this? Where does it fit? What is personal branding is the first question to ask. How do you portray yourself to the public? What does the public see you as? You may have all the skills, right? Someone may have all the skills, but how do I show you that I have these skills? Just by writing? Or do I get it published somewhere? Do I hook it up with my CV?
Okay, that's actually another good question. I think one of the things we need to settle first is, when we talk about personal branding, what are we really talking about, Jen?
I would say, okay, the first thing came to my mind when I thought about personal branding was to Google myself to see what comes up. Do I have a database of myself already on the internet, or what sort of things am I connected to? Like for me, I'm a writer. That is where I started off from. So when I Google my name, I see my books, I see my blog writings, I see things like that. So personal branding to me personally means what I've achieved, what others have seen me as, and what I want people to know I'm capable of doing. If someone is good in IT, like what you mentioned earlier, you would want them to be able to have a chance to see your projects available online, or a way to sell yourself so that you have a platform to step onto and move on in your career and build yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. And if we think about it, when we think about brands, okay, so a branded good, what is a brand? It's a commitment to certain things, certain attitudes. Okay, so you buy something, if you're looking for something that's really high quality, then you know that there are certain brands that sell things that are really high quality. You expect it also to be expensive. If you're looking for something quick and cheap, there are certain brands you go to because you know it'll be quick, it'll be cheap, it'll get the job done, it may not last. Personal branding, personal branding, personal branding is a lot like that, okay? You want to construct or you want to organically generate something that is a coherent whole, okay? And that's really important, all right? It's got to hang together. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. And this, if you're building a personal brand of somebody that is, just starting out, that is really big on professional values, then the email account you use shouldn't be something along the lines of hotpants95, okay, at gmail.com.
We had those kind of email addresses when we first started, rocketmail.com, and then you'd have mad scientists at rocketmail.com. I mean, people just got crazy about all this ideas.
Oh yeah, and people, especially, yes, back in the day they did, but also now, because what we're talking about is a generation of digital natives, okay, people that have always been online, so to speak, even in the womb, I guess.
To some extent.
So the point is, the boundaries between personal life and business life, or if you like professional life, or sort of like student life, are very blurred. Okay, they're not hard and fast boundaries anymore. So, people just, they put, shall we say, a very personal email address, and they use it all the time and among their friends and for whatever else they need, and they forget exactly what it says. Okay, and then of course when they go to Job Street and they sort of like fill in a CV, okay, or they just sort of like, they just sign up to something using their Google address. They just have to click sign up with Google. They don't think about what their email address is, and it's hotpants95, it's mad scientist, it's evil killer, it's whatever, okay, and that is then part of their CV. That is then part of, the brand that they're putting out, and they don't even realize it. I worked in talent acquisition for quite a while, and there were a significant number of people that hadn't thought things through. Okay, in terms of the email address they were using, in terms of their social media. Okay, I mean, if you're gonna live an open life and everything goes on social media, you can't then turn around and try and project the image of a sober professional that's all about the job if your social media says exactly the opposite. I'm not saying you can't have two sides to your life, but if you put one side constantly out there, you can't be shocked when hiring managers and HR, talent acquisition people actually go to your social media and have a look at what you like. That's something that would, okay, I predate social media by a number of decades, but what I'm trying to say is, they will have a look. They want to know more about you. See, this is another fact. Okay, hiring these days is all about getting the right person right there at the beginning. Okay, really getting to know that person. That's why when I was starting out, you might get one, maybe two interviews. Now it's common to get 4 to 5 interviews before you get the job, and it's kind of like, why? Why do I have to come back so many times? Why do I have to give so many interviews to so many different people? And it's because they want to know whether you're going to be a really good fit with your team. They want to know whether you're going to be a really good fit in the wider, sort of like company community. They want to really sort of like do a 360 evaluation and try and get as many people's input on you as possible. So they are going to stalk your social media. They are going to have a look at what you've got. Okay. So you have to be aware of that, and you have to curate your social media. Okay.
Okay, so what happens, all right, now, let's say a graduate, a young graduate, has had a life on social media that's full of selfies and full of parties and stuff like that. Is that person supposed to expect to drop everything and then turn into a professional being altogether? I mean, how do you transition from being a teenager to being someone who is going to be,
That's a good question. Well, the point is nobody expects that. Okay, everybody expects, students, teenagers to have parties, to have fun, to have a lot of friends. Yeah. But you need to curate what you're putting up there. Okay, if you know your social media timeline is full of drunken stumbling at 3 a.m., then that may be a bit different from what you're trying to project, and maybe you want to get rid of that. So, like I said, no one expects you to have been cloistered like a monk. What they expect is that if you're going to be savvy at using social media, if you're going to say, yes, I'm very good at digital marketing, I'm a very savvy social media marketer, then you should be savvy enough in your own marketing of yourself, okay? Because that's the first place they're going to start looking. And so it's important that within those, within your social media stream, so to speak, you start building up from the earliest opportunity possible hints of what you would be like in a professional setting. Okay, when you say, what's the earliest you can start to build up your personal brand? And the answer is as early as possible. Okay, we're not talking a Kardashian-esque use of your children and build it up from when you were 8 or 9. But what I'm saying is, when you come to university, when you join a college, okay, it's no longer about the grades. And that's not to say grades aren't important. Of course they are.
It's not only about the grades.
But it's not only about the grades. Plenty of people, and you know, Malaysia is quite famous for this. Parents say nothing matters more than exam results.
Asian parents are all like that. Sorry, it's not Asian.
Well done. Seriously, what gave it away? But Jen's right. Okay, yeah, Asian parents tend to focus on that because that's what their parents focused on. And to be honest, if you're currently a parent and you're currently in your, I don't know, 40s to 50s, when you were coming up and when you were looking for a job, most hiring managers back then focused on your grades. Did you get a first-class degree? Okay, there's still plenty of companies where the first box they tick is, do you have a first-class degree? And if you do, you're in, and if you don't, it's going to be a lot harder to get that job, but it's not impossible. Okay, and many companies are dropping those sorts of checkbox requirements as well because they see them as not as useful anymore in terms of what you want people to do, what the skills you want people to have. Okay, so yes, they're interested in how you do academically. Your CGPA tells them everything they need to know. Okay, if your CGPA is not so good, then your personal brand better come up with something that really captivates.
True.
Okay, and that's the point. When you the experience that you're having at university shouldn't just be about studying and exams and getting the perfect CGPA. Your experience at university really has to be kind of like a 360 experience. Okay, this is going to sound a bit much, but you know, it should be a social experience. It should be an athletic experience. It should be a professional experience. It should be a moral experience. It should be a spiritual experience. It should be an entrepreneurial experience. Now, you might not hit every single one of those.
It's a lot of experiences required.
Yeah. But if you look at it, look at the Ministry of Higher Education. Look at the Ministry of Education coming out with exactly that, the 360 CGPA that touches on students' experiences in these things. Because, you know, the government recognizes that it's not all about the grades. If you just focus on getting that first-class honors degree, you're not actually growing as a person. You're not actually experiencing all the things you need to experience. You're basically experiencing yourself alone in a room with a computer and a book. Okay? And you know, that's not enough anymore. Okay? It's not enough to be really good working by yourself because 99.9% of all the work you're going to do in an office environment is in a team. And if you are incapable of working in a team, then you're not the sort of person that they want to bring in. Because it's honestly really difficult to get people that are not team players to be team players. Okay, it's easier to teach a lawyer coding, and it is actually quite easy to teach a lawyer coding because they're very detail-oriented. They go through contracts line by line, so they go through code line by line. Okay, so it's easier to teach a lawyer coding than it is to teach a solitary individual how to be a team player. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that they're looking for. So in your personal brand, okay, you need to put that you joined these clubs, you put yourself out there, you had these experiences. One of the biggest complaints that fresh grads make is everyone asks about experience. Okay, and I have no experiences because I'm a fresh grad. But if you think about it, you have huge amounts of experience. You just don't see them as relevant to your professional life, but they are. If you join a student club, okay, automatically you're a team player. If you take a leadership position in that club, then automatically you're showing leadership potential.
That's very true, because there are a lot of, I have a few, I mean, I've got a teenager myself, and she's seeing certain, applications asking for fresh grad and also experience. So there was one application which she saw in online, and her question was, how can you be a fresh grad and still have an experience? Where does it come from? So that's the answer, right? I mean, your experiences in leadership roles or administrative roles while being a graduate, a student in the university plays a big deal as a fresh grad as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of people
really
would think
true.
that, no, I'll join this club, but I'm just going to stay silent. Then there are some kids who, I'll join the society and I want to be in the committee. I want to hold a position as a president. I want to lead the team. There are different kinds of attitudes, and whichever attitude you have, you need to know that it carries a weight into your CV.
Yes,
into
that's right.
what you put out.
Into more than just your CV, into your personal brand.
Personal
Because if you
brand,
put it
right.
in your CV, they're going to ask about it in the interview. And I'd say this, it's perfectly fine to join a club and be a follower. You're going to be at university for 3 or 4 years. So in your first year, if you join a club and you're kind of a bit of a wallflower, a bit of hanging back and being a bit quiet, that's okay as long as you start building up your skill set, your social skills. Okay, as long as during your time at university you start to push yourself forward, you start to grow a little bit into these things. Okay, so even if you've never really taken a leadership role in the club, you can say, well, look, when I started, I was completely silent and always at the back, and I knew it was a problem. I knew I needed to improve myself, so I joined this club, and okay, I never made it to a leadership position, but over the 3 years I was a member of the club, I went from always silent at the back to the first one to volunteer. Okay, the first one to help out, the person that people came to and they said, we've got a problem, we really need some help. Okay, so I never became treasurer, but I became a really valuable member of that club. All right, and that's personal branding. Okay, that's really showing that, number one, you can change, you recognize there are things you need to change, and you can figure out what you need to do, and then you can go and do it. Okay, again, one of the things that many, not all, but many companies are looking for now is what might be called the entrepreneurial skill set, which is highly self-motivated. Okay, you're a problem finder. So you look and think, is there a problem in this scenario? Yes, there is. Okay. Now that I know there's a problem, I can look for the solution. Okay, what's the solution? The solution is this. Now, okay, you're a student, you're not in that many scenarios with problems, but if you notice that you are part of the problem, then you can change yourself. Okay, and that's something really good to talk about. Because that's the other thing. Like I said, there are so many interviews now, and you've got to talk about something, and they will talk about you. Anything you put in your CV. And coming back to the CV, a lot of people, when they use a template for a CV, they seem to focus on the subjects that they did. They always want to say, I got an A in this subject. I got an A minus in this subject. I got a B plus in this subject. The honest answer is no one really cares, about the subjects you did. If you got an engineering degree, they'll just take it that your engineering degree was the right sort of engineering. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't be applying for the job. Okay, if you did a business degree, you did the right sort of business degree. They look at the CGPA because, again, if your CGPA is super low, then you really need to have something else on the table, and you need to have it on the table really fast. Okay? If your CGPA is really, really high, then that's obviously going to be something they start with, but that's not where they're going to finish. I know at least a few companies that say they don't actually like hiring first-class honors students because they're too difficult to work with. They prefer a second-class upper because second-class uppers try harder and are more willing to put themselves on the line. I'm not saying if you're a first-class honors degree holder that you shouldn't try. Of course you should, and you're very sought after in the workforce. But it's something to think about. Okay.
But I think what Mr. Matthew is trying to say is that that's not enough. That alone is not everything in this current time, right?
That's right.
Having a first class degree with no added skills is
Yeah,
as good as not having a good
very
GPA.
limited.
You know?
Very limited.
Yeah. So, correct. How soon you should start? As soon as.
As soon as you can. Honestly, as soon as you can. So the point is, people they focus on the subjects they did, and they focus on the grades because they believe they have no experience. Then they'll put in, sort of like, hobbies. I was in the badminton club. I was in this club. I was in that club, and I like to read and watch movies and things like that. But the clubs you are in and the experiences you had should be really at the forefront of your CV, because you should look at everything that you have done, everything you've experienced, and say, what are the skills that doing this taught me? Okay, how did this help me develop and grow as a person?
Yeah.
And then that's what you put in. So I'm a really strong advocate of the skills-based CV. Okay, straight up there, straight up the front, a skills-based CV is more, and just 2 pages maximum. Okay, you're a fresh grad, you can fit everything into 1 page. Okay, don't be too artistic with your layout and your fonts and things like that, because it just gets messy. And also, a lot of companies these days use AI to sort through the first round of CVs, and if your CV is too artistic, too out there, too different from the standard template, then the AI might not recognize certain of the words you use.
So there is a standard template for this?
Well, there are a lot of different templates, but I always put up the front, I say put a little summary of your skills. And then the rest of your CV is actually going back and saying how you got those skills. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's the best, because they look for skills. Yeah. Okay, they look to see, this sort of person that I'm hiring, what can they do? Okay, and again, if you look at it, the single most highly regarded thing over the last 5 years that hiring managers look for is digital marketing skills. Okay. Really, that's it. Okay. For fresh grads that have got jobs, when you ask them, did you use these digital marketing skills, they say, oh, very rarely. That's not something that I was hired for. But hiring managers look to see that you've got that skill set, because it's important to them. If you ask fresh grads that have been hired, what is the single most important skill that they have used in their first year, they will say communication skills. Okay, really, number one, communication skills. These days, fresh grads who get that job, you'll be the fresh hire. Within the first month, you'll be giving a presentation. They'll give you something and they'll say, okay, we want you to work up a presentation on X. You've got 2 weeks, and then you're in front of the board of directors, or you're in front of the managers and things like that, and they'll just let you get on with it. That wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened when I was first going for a job. Okay, you weren't considered able to give a presentation till you've been there about a year, really. But these days, it's expected you'll have the communication skills. Okay, you either swim or you drown. Put it that way.
How does this affect a person who's an introvert and an extrovert? I mean, what if an introvert says, oh, I don't think I want to look into personal branding because I'm not that sort of person. I don't think I want to, put myself out so much.
Well, what I would say to that person, and I know that person is me, that is your personal brand. You're already doing it. You can't not do it, unless you want to live by yourself on a mountaintop. Everything you do, that decision that you make, that I'm not really into the social thing, I'm not going to put myself out there, that's your personal brand. Okay? That's a decision that you make. Look, no one's saying that introverts must be the life of the party in order to get a job. Okay? Hiring managers are knowledgeable people. Okay? They're not going to think, oh, introverts, we don't want them. If you're going for a sales job, where your primary skill has to be a kind of like meets and talks to people very easily, then introverts are going to have a tough time. Okay? But most jobs don't require huge amounts of extroversion, if you know what I mean. So, if you're an introvert, okay, you're an introvert. So, what are the things you do well? What are the skills that you have? Okay? And to be honest, and again, personal experience, you can be an introvert and then you can still learn to be social in professional settings. You can learn how to talk easily. You can learn how to get in front of the camera and have a conversation. Okay? And then Exactly, and then after it's finished, you say thank you very much, and you go and be by yourself for half an hour because you really need to decompress out of that,
And recharge.
yeah, and recharge. So the whole "I'm an introvert" thing often is an excuse or a crutch. It doesn't really stop. If you've got social anxiety, which is separate from being an introvert, then yes, okay, that's something that needs to be thought about. Okay, you need to think about how you're going to sort of like survive in a social setting. But you already are. That's the thing. People with social anxiety, it's not a surprise that you have social anxiety. You deal with it. Okay, again, or you live on a mountaintop.
No, I'll stay down. Okay, that's all from us today. If you have any questions regarding personal branding or to our current students right now in Masa University, Mr. Matthew is always here to help you improve your CV, or figure out how to
brand yourself.
brand yourself.
I'm in the Unity building on the first floor.
Yes, and if
Drop by.
for those who are not from Masa, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, please drop your questions in the comment box and we'll get back to you. Okay? Alright?
Okay, it's been great, and look, we'll see you next month. We do this every month.
Yes.
I guess.
So
Now,
we'll come up
this
with
is-
another topic next month on
Yes.
how to improve yourself for better employability.
Yeah, that sounds good. And also, we'll answer any questions that you dropped in the question box.
So do that. Watch this later if you're not watching it live, and give us your questions and we'll be happy to attend to it. Thank you and have a good Sunday.
Thank you, and have a good Sunday.
Bye.